Welcome everyone, and thank you for attending the Out of School Time program session. My name is Billy Fettweis. I'm the Chief Development Officer at Horton's Kids, and I'm here with three distinguished colleagues in the Out of School Time space to fill you in on how our world has changed now that pretty much all time is out of school time, and how we've had to pivot to continue to provide supports for children and families through a really unusual time. As potentially with the first session you attended, I have some questions that we're gonna ask our panelists this evening, and if you have questions as we go, please add them into the chat, and I'll try to weave them in as well if we have time. But it's gonna be a fast-paced conversation, so I'd say we just go ahead and dive right in. And I'm gonna ask each of our panelists to introduce themselves, talk a little bit about where you work and what work you're doing. So why don't we start with Carly? You just you put yourself on mute now, Carly. There we go.
Oh, sorry, my computer froze, but we're back. It was whirring. We're good now. I'm sorry, I missed the last like 30 seconds of what you said. Are we in introductions?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hi. Thank you so much for having us here. I'm Carly Abarbanel. I'm the program director at Girls on the Run DC, and it is really an honor to be with some other amazing organizations who have done great things, especially during the pandemic. So at Girls on the Run DC, we serve girls in grades 3 through 8, so that's approximately 8 years old to 13 years old. And these girls are at a pivotal point in their development when learning skills to be joyful, healthy, confident are really essential to their future success and empowerment. So our 10-week curriculum is a lot more than a running program. And we serve girls in all 8 wards of DC and parts of Prince George's County. And throughout each season, girls work through our 3-part curriculum in which they learn about themselves, their relationships with others, and then finally choose and execute a community impact project. And they do this all while building up to completing a 5K.
Wow.
Toni, would you like to introduce yourself?
Great, thank you, and good evening. This has been a wonderful evening so far. My name is Toni Lewis. I'm the founder and CEO for FAME, which stands for Foundation for the Advancement of Music and Education. We're based in Prince George's County, but we serve the greater Washington region. We have 3 major programs that we have, and that's the FAME Jazz Band program, which is a year-round program where we support children with from morning to night. We provide academic tutoring, music, career planning, and college prep. And we have a wonderful program that we provide in conjunction with the University of Maryland. It's called the Summer Music Program, and that's open to all students. And we have the pleasure of serving and working in a lot of the schools in the region, where we are actually in the region, in the schools, actually helping them with materials, supplies. We bring in professional support to help that instructor, because a lot of times the instructors don't have everything they need in the schools to carry things out.
Wonderful. Thank you, Toni. And Guadalupe.
Hi, everyone. My name is Guadalupe Campos. I'm the director of Paso Nuevo, which is GALA Theater's youth program here in Columbia Heights in Washington, D.C. We are a program that provides a safe space for high school youth to come in, create art, tell their stories, take agency of their own narrative. We're a bilingual program. Most of our students are either first generation or recent arrival students from primarily right now Latin American countries, Central American countries, Colombia, El Salvador, Honduras. So many of our students find community here in our program, and for many of them, we are the first kind of home that they find after they've come into the country. So that's our mission.
Wonderful, thank you so much. And Carly, it looks like you have a Girls on the Run volunteer and fan in the audience this evening.
I saw that. I don't think we even planted her.
I mean, thank you all for introducing yourselves and the good work that you're all doing. And I think one of the things that probably everyone is wondering is, how have things changed? So you normally structure your days around a school day, and the school day is ethereal. And additionally, you know, it's difficult to gather kids together. So how have things changed? What are you doing differently, and how are you tackling those challenges? We'll go in the same order. So Carly, do you want to kick us off?
Sure, absolutely. So I think what's really cool about our program is that what we do actually hasn't changed, and just sort of how we've had to approach it has. So normally, as you said, we do structure ourselves around schools, and we usually have close to 100 teams each season, and most of them are based out of schools. And with teachers being so busy and school plans constantly in flux, we've only had a few schools decide to hold teams this fall. So we actually held mostly virtual teams this fall. So that obviously was a big change. And maybe I'll talk a little bit about that later. But we also held a few in-person teams. And basically, we've had to create general virtual teams that group girls based on the time they were available instead of the school they were based out of. So we were able to connect girls from across the city, from the far west end of DC to like deep in Prince George's County, who never would have been on a team together, and now they're on a team together. And the way that we've had to communicate and outreach has also really changed a lot. So normally we go through schools, we have schools do the communicating to families for us, and we've had to directly reach out to families and communities, and that's been a really big change for us, but has really allowed us to bring in some new volunteers and some more parent and adult supporter engagement in a way that we hadn't before.
Thank you. Toni, how are things different?
They're very different. Like most music programs and instructions, they're done in person. And there's a lot of synergy, energy that is gained from that in-person contact. You just can't, say too much about that, because it does really, it's the basis of that music. But what we did within a week of the closing of everything, we decided we didn't want to lose the momentum that we gained with our children. So we took a week off and we worked and put together what's called FAME Online Learning. And with that, we have components of Zoom and Music First, which is another software package that we use. But of course, none of those products have the connection that you need for music. But what we have been able to continue our academic program. And as a matter of fact, just like Carly, we've been able to expand the program because there were children who couldn't come to our facility to take those classes. So now we can teach kids just about anywhere. And a lot of them do need that support, because like one of the students, and they're at home during the day with the parent who's using the computer. They only have one computer. So we're able to bring those kids into our facility online and teach them and use the services that we have that way. Yeah. So everything has really changed, but we are doing virtual performances. Get a chance to see that on our website, but we're doing, which has increased the number of artists and musicians that we've been able to bring in to do those master classes. So it's expanded greatly, increased the staff and the support that we provide.
Wonderful.
Yes.
In Guadalupe, how have things changed?
They've also changed. As Toni mentioned, in the arts, there's a community and a sense of being present that is essential to creating art, to creating theater. Usually the kids make or write their own work, and then they perform it on stage every semester. This year, that was not a reality for them, and so we decided to, again, take some time off. We took about 2 weeks off to make sure that they were safe and just doing wellness checks mostly. But then after those 2 weeks, we decided to hit the ground running. We transitioned online. We started recording a podcast called Creatividad Latinx. It's fully or 90% in Spanish. And we reached their family members who were all the way in Guatemala and El Salvador. So that was a really beautiful moment in which they were able to share the work that normally they wouldn't have been able to share. Facilitate classes online for students in other parts of the city that normally wouldn't have made it to Columbia Heights by the time they got out of school. And so while we've had to change the way we do it, as Carly mentioned, we've also been able to reach other kids and other family members who normally wouldn't have been able to witness their work. So that's been really exciting. And so it's been a new way of doing things. Yeah.
Well, it's inspiring to me as a person who's in your space to hear about the creativity and how you're reaching new kids and finding new ways and finding some unexpected benefits. At Horton's Kids, we've changed how we do outreach. We don't do outreach per kid, we do outreach per family. And we do family check-ins, and then kind of within that, finding every kid. That's a lesson that we learned through this pandemic that we're going to take forward. And I wonder, hearing about all the innovation that you've come up with, what are the things and the lessons learned that you're going to carry with you after the pandemic? And before we start answering that question, I do want to remind the people in the audience, if you have questions, feel free to add them to the chat. Otherwise, I'll just keep going. But Carly, go ahead. What have you learned from this period that you're going to take forward? And we'll go sort of through the same order.
Sure. Also, heads up, my computer is being a little funky. So... Uh-oh, can you hear me?
We can hear you. You're a little delayed, but I think it'll work fine. So what have you learned?
Okay. So there are two big things that I think have come out of this for us. One is that at the core of our program really is building a sense of community. So girls learn about themselves and their relationships with others and their relationship with their community. And so, coaches were a little bit flustered at first when they had to move virtual and had to, do part of the lesson. Basically what happens is they do part of the lesson together virtually, and then the girls do a workout on their own. And so it's a different format, and they were flustered with how to fit it all in. And what it really came down to, with some of our new coaches and teaching them how to work through their curriculum, was that always focus on community, always focus on relationship building, always focus on like what the girl is learning and how she's relating to her teammates. And so I think like having coaches or teaching coaches to think through just focusing on that community aspect has really helped me think about how we train our coaches. And then also on the coaches front, we have had way more community coaches apply. So sometimes our coaches are teachers and staff members at school, sometimes they're parents, sometimes they're just people that want to get involved with Girls on the Run DC. And we have had so many community coaches interested in coaching because of the community they get with other coaches, and because of what some of our coaches have said this season, which is that they just get such joy, such empowerment themselves from moving through the curriculum with the girls. And so there have been some connections that we've made across coaches because we've had a smaller season this year that have just sort of happened naturally, that I think we'll be able to move forward a little more formally and keep coaches connected with each other and really make this an incredible program for our volunteers as well.
Toni, what have you learned?
Learned, Billy, that it is very important to keep young people engaged in the programming, not just the program. We've learned so much from our students. We have students who are at school, like they're at Berkeley, Howard, and North Carolina, all over, but they're home now. So we engage them and involve them in the technology. And it's amazing how they're teaching this young lady how to engage and make those programming great. So it's very important that we engage them in the programming and get their ideas. And also, it's very important that we continue to engage the parents and students at the same time. Especially right now, we have a lot of the children are stressed. There's a lot of mental and social issues about well-being that is going on. So it's important that you continue the dialogue with the students and the parents. So that to me is very important. We have middle and high school ages, and being with your friends are so important. So we are making sure that we can keep that dialogue and that communication going during this time.
Guadalupe, what lessons will you carry forward?
I think I was very against online learning at the beginning. I was like, how am I going to do this? But now I 100% will include online classes in teacher programming of Paso Nuevo. And I learned to not underestimate the youth. They are so strong. They are so resilient. And at first I thought, how in the world are they going to come to and participate and engage? But I learned that they are when they are truly invested, they are truly invested. And even if it's because they want to hang out with their friends, or if it's because they really have a stake in what they're doing in the creative process that they're engaging in, they are so strong. and they are so resilient. And so investing in youth, I think, is the best thing that we can do as a community in whatever area that is.
Guadalupe, that's a lovely sentiment. And I think that all of us who are in a position where we're working with youth have learned that lesson, not to underestimate them and not to underestimate what they're capable of. I think that's a beautiful thing. And of course, everyone here in this session probably is sharing my feeling of being so impressed with each of you and the programs that you run. And just sort of in 30 seconds or so, because we're running short on time, how have donors been supporting you in this process? Are there new ways that they're supporting your efforts, and as people look about where they may get involved? Carly, if you go really very quickly, we are short on time.
Yeah, so we are 70% funded by donors. We have we have about a 76% scholarship rate. So donors are everything to us. And we have had continued donor-sponsored teams, which is huge. So that's an entire 10 to 15 girls who get this experience and get this empowering program. And we've had them sponsor our virtual 5K, which also is next week if anyone wants to sign up. So, having monthly donors and individual donors is a huge, huge piece to us, and we really couldn't do it without them.
Toni?
It's been great. As a matter of fact, I'm checking in to see what they can do, because they know during this period, it's very difficult for a lot of the families to make contributions. So they're asking, how can they help? And so we'll continue to say that. I'm just continue to direct them to us, give them my number, whatever is necessary, because it is very important that we stay on top of this. We don't want to lose the progress that we've made with our children, especially when we're hearing that our kids are losing 3 to 14 months of education during this pandemic. So I'm very thankful for those funders and donors who continue to reach out. So we hope they continue to do that.
And finally, Guadalupe.
I actually don't engage with donors as much as probably my executive director does. But what I can say is to learn more about Paso Nuevo and to share our work through social media. So our handle is @PasoNuevoTheater. And of course, if I'm sure people that support GALA Theater, we are still running and we've continued to keep the program. So I'm sure the donors have been very engaged. But just sharing our work, yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you. Working alongside all three of you in the out of school time space keeps me energized and excited by your creativity and your dedication and your belief in the possibility of young people. So thank you so much for your contributions today and for the work that you do all year long. And for those of you in the audience, thank you for joining us for our conversation. We're about to transition back to the main stage for some final thoughts and reflections on our evening. But thank you for participating. And once again, thank you so much to our panelists for your insights and your wisdom.
Thank you, Billy.
Thank you so much.